There have been many love stories told throughout the centuries. It's a medium which has endured throughout human history, and shall continue to do so, as it's a subject which can excite, upset, mesmerise, and indeed stimulate readers, viewers, and listeners alike. However, a simple story is not so engaging if it's kept basic and formulaic. Familiarity breeds contempt, and you need to stand out from the crowd in order to leave a mark. The pilot's love song takes romance and hardship and sprinkles it with exploration and adventure, whilst breaking the laws of physics. The story of the pilot's love song initially is pretty straightforward. Man has grown tired of its surroundings and yearns to explore the fabled end of the sky, the place foretold in the universe's lore to be a mythical place where the truth of their world will be explained. As such, humanity has mounted a scout party of tweaked World War II prop planes and a conveniently placed floating island acting as the biggest ship you've ever seen. It acts as an aircraft carrier for the pilots and as a base for operations and to save the audience from getting bored of seeing planes all the time. It's at this point you need to leave your disbelief at the door, and just take the fact that there's an island, named Isla originally, flying through the air. This is explained away by it being part of the lore of the universe as well, so even the people can't really explain it. My theory is a wizard did it. Our story focuses on two siblings primarily, named Adi and Kal-El. Since when did Superman need a plane to fly, huh? Who are part of the fleet leading this expedition to the end of the world. Over the initial foray into the narrative, Kal-El stumbles upon Claire, a timid girl from a noble family, and helps her out with her bike. Within a few minutes, they fall deeply in love with each other. Just like that. From timid to doting. It's a bit odd. That's my problem with this show. The plot is uneven. The writers have set up a trip to the end of the world. And that itself is pretty epic. But they also feel that we need a Romeo and Juliet style subplot in which to tide the audience over in the meantime. From the off, we get that there's a class divide going on with the pilots. The A team get plush dorms and buses, and the B team have to walk places. It's a clear and rather draconian signifier, but it gets the job done. It could have been done more subtly, but that's what we gotta work with here. The main plot is only beginning, but already we have established that there's a tale of star-crossed lovers from two different classes which we know won't end well based on experiences from other novella. Apart from that, we've got nothing. However, we need to take a step back before condemning the show. We've got 11 episodes at least to establish everything that's going on. Things do get explained in the long run, but for now, the story is keeping its cards close to its chest. It's clear that Kal-El's character is ripe for development. At first he is bratish and rather irritating, not to mention impulsive when it comes to his emotions. Before you go writing him off as a lost cause, this treatment of him is there for him to become a more rounded individual towards the end of the story, which does happen somewhat. So rest assured, he won't be as grating later on. The show does look pretty, and the CGI on the planes particularly impresses. Everything looks right and detailed with care. There's no faulting the execution here. And you can forgive the inconsistent plot to an extent. The Pirate's Love Song is in fact a prequel to another light novel by Kuroko Inamura titled The Princess and the Pilot, but you don't need to know much about the latter story to get what is happening in the former. The former sets up the latter, and as such you can get away with not reading it. In all, it's a series which asks you to be patient, and hang in there for the duration, and give it a proper judgment call. I'm inclined to do so. The presentation is great. The plot as a whole interests, and here's hoping that it will stabilise towards the end of its run. The Pilot's Love Song is available to stream on Crunchyroll. My rating? Continue. Have faith and the story shall reward you. If you like what you heard, please visit my Patreon campaign to help grow Anifile at patreon.com/MasakoX.